Welcome into Candlestick Chronicles, a 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Kyle Madsen. I write about the 49ers over at NinersWire.com, part of the USA Today Sports Media Group. Joining me right now, Chris Biederman of the Sacramento Bee. And before we get to whatever the hell the 49ers just did in Minnesota, let's talk about our friends over at Lamb Chops. SGLambchops.com is the website. You can follow them on Instagram at SGLambchops. They were our favorite clothing brand and the official clothing brand of Candlestick Chronicles. Comfortable clothing, quality clothing, and Chris, some dope looks.
And what's the most important thing about the clothes you pick?
Looking dope.
Looking dope.
Everybody knows it. So look dope today. Go to sglambchops.com. Use promo code Candlestick20 for 20% off your order. Hoodies, t-shirts, shorts, joggers, necklaces, hats. They got it all. sglambchops.com.
We love lamb chops. Shout out to our guy Craig. Probably in the building tonight in Minnesota.
I would imagine so.
Probably a tough watch.
Very tough. We'll talk about that in a second, but not before we talk about our friends at Cooperage. CooperageBrewing.com is the website. You can order beer there, including our beer, Candlestick Chronicles Hazy IPA. It's delicious. You should order a case. They'll mail it right to your front door. 1-day shipping.
There was a lot of Candlestick Chronicles consumed in this household because the 49ers did not play on Sunday, which gave us the rare opportunity to kick our feet up a little bit and enjoy a football Sunday without having to podcast and watch closely and all of those things. But you best believe there was some Candlestick Chronicles drank at this house. And man, it was stupendous. It's always good. Like, it doesn't surprise me that it's good, but like you open it and you take that first sip and you're like, oh yeah, this is really, really good beer. Like, not only does it this awesome can that has our names on it and it's named after our podcast, it's like, oh yeah, it tastes great.
Love it. CoopersBrewing.com. Shout out to Cooperage. All right, let's talk about the 49ers loss to the Vikings. Here we go. I don't even know where to start. Steve Wilks, he was bad. Nick Bosa, nowhere to be found. Brock Purdy did the thing that Brock Purdy doubters said he couldn't do. He didn't. He did. Like Steven Ruiz might have been right. It was, dude, that was ugly. That was really bad. That looked like a team that I cannot comfortably put in the Super Bowl contender conversation. They're not on the level of the Eagles. They're not on the level of the Chiefs. They're not on the level of the Ravens, or who am I missing?
I don't know. You think they're worse than Detroit?
No, I think they're about the same as Detroit right now.
Okay.
Given the last 2 weeks, worse, but the 2 weeks does not a football team make.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost 2 in a row. It's been the first time they've lost 2 in a row since around this time last year. So obviously it's really hard to say what we said 2 weeks ago when they beat the Cowboys, that they were the class of the NFL. But it's a pretty stark contrast, right? The Eagles handle business against the Dolphins, albeit on their home field on Sunday Night Football, and the Niners have an opportunity to make a point, make a statement on Monday Night Football that last week's game in Cleveland was an aberration, and they come out and frankly they play horribly. And the thing was about this game was so much went wrong, right? It wasn't, you can't really pinpoint one thing that was off for them in this game. It was their first 2 trips deep into Minnesota territory, coming out with 0 points, with Christian McCaffrey fumbling and then Jake Moody missing a field goal. You have third down efficiency for Minnesota. They're 8 of 13 on third down. The Niners pass rush was completely ineffective. And they didn't have a single sack tonight. I heard at the end of the broadcast, Joe Buck say the 45 attempts without a sack is the most this season in the NFL for a team.
Yeah.
So, the 49ers, who are basically built on being a team that can bother opposing quarterbacks with just 4 pass rushers, was completely ineffective tonight. And I'm sure the Vikings offensive line deserves some credit for that. The one time, they dialed up some blitzes, and it feels like every time they've dialed up a blitz, they've gotten killed by it. It happened a lot in Cleveland with the screen game, and it happened with 16 seconds left in the first half today when Addison scored that 60-yard touchdown, which should have been a pick by Mooney Ward. But you can go down the list. You can go to Kyle Shanahan's decision to kick a field goal to go down 5 when you're down 8, when you have an opportunity to just go score a touchdown. get the 2-point conversion and tie the game there instead of being down 5, which doesn't do a lot for you. It actually looked smart for a second when they got a missed field goal from the Vikings, and then the Vikings elected to punt on a 4th and short in a spot where they could have gone for it in 49ers territory after Kyle Shanahan made that decision. And then you have Brock Purdy's 2 interceptions, right? Like it's Brock looked really good, and I thought he looked really sharp with the exception of those 2 picks, or even before those 2 picks. And the 2 picks were bad. And it looked like the first one was a product of Juwan Jennings maybe getting, it was one of those timing routes so often where we see Brock Purdy throw the ball before the receiver does his in-breaking route. Juwan Jennings was pushed to the outside by a Vikings defender in coverage, and maybe that messed up the timing of the route. I don't know what it was, but it was one of those scenarios where Brock Purdy's throwing to a spot, not necessarily to a guy, and the guy wasn't there. And it also looked like it was off target in addition to that. Right. Yep. So you had the offense not getting points early in the game. You had the defense being completely unable to get off the field on 3rd down. You had Kirk Cousins just being able to do whatever he wanted. And yeah, the coverage wasn't good, but it's hard for me to focus on the coverage in this game, given how we've seen the 49ers win in the past. It's by bothering opposing quarterbacks, and coverage can look a lot better when the quarterback is feeling pressure. And then the interceptions, like to me, that was it. Those were the three biggest things. But coming out of this game, it was the fact that it was so many things that went wrong for the 49ers, not just like one thing here or there. It was a failure on multiple fronts. And it was really surprising. And again, in the context of the Eagles beating the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football, and then the Niners coming out and losing to a team that was previously 2-4, it's a tough scene. And there are absolutely zero silver linings. I know there was, we did a video, or we talked about it in the pod last week about silver linings. That there are none this week. There are no silver linings.
Jake Moody made a kick.
He made a 55-yard kick that proved to be meaningless. Thankfully for his sake, it wasn't a 2-point game like last week. He missed a field goal, but it feels like a much less important subplot than it would have been had they lost by 2 points this week again.
Jalen Moore was pretty good in pass pro.
Hang the banner.
I'm looking for silver linings. No, it was a mess, man. And I don't. This is not like the fault of one singular player, right? This is not. It's not. And I even talk about Steve Wilkes. I mean, that's just, you got to make an adjustment. You got to know that your pass rush isn't getting home and figure out what to do about it coverage wise, because they were playing coverage like their pass rush was going to get home, and then it wasn't. So, and then you get the what was the next gen stat on Steve Wilkes' 0 blitz call? It was, let me go find it here. The 49ers sent the first 7 men. This is from ESPN's next gen stats. The 49ers sent the first 7-man pass rush in the last 30 seconds of a half in opposing territory since week 11 of 2020. Do you know
that was
why?
Their own?
No.
Oh, like
in the
so
NFL,
was that the Raiders-Jets game?
I
don't remember. There was one play that was like,
no, because they weren't in. I think they weren't in opposing territory.
Yeah,
like the Vikings weren't on the Niners side of the field, and they sent a 7-man and ultimately
with 16 seconds left.
If Ward intercepts that like he should. And that's why it's hard to point the finger at one person, right? You can blame Wilkes for the blitz call, but then if Ward intercepts that, we're going, wow, what a call. I'm my biggest thing is I said this on the radio on ESPN 1320, Sacramento's #1 sports station.
Except on Tuesdays, circa 11 a.m.
No, I said this is a game that, hey, you know what? Offense a little banged up. This is where you need your highest paid non-quarterback in the league to take over a game and do something. And Nick Bosa didn't do anything tonight. And you can tell me all about the Vikings tackles are good. Well, yeah, no, but you pay Nick Bosa to be better than those players and to make an impact. And he had a couple of pressures, I know, and he had a couple of run stops. Yeah, you're a ball knower for knowing that. But, dude, go get a sack. Go get the quarterback. He was virtually non-existent. He was non-existent in a way that was going to impact the game. Like go look at what Myles Garrett did against the Colts the other day or on Sunday.
Right.
Did they get? Yeah, they gave up a bunch of points, but he had 2 sacks, both of them strip sacks. He blocked a field goal. It's like he put his mark on that game. Nick Bosa didn't in a game where they needed him to. You have Javon Hargrave, who you paid a bunch of money to, just not a factor. Eric Armstead, who's been expensive, not a factor. Randy Gregory, who you traded for, not really a factor. Cleveland Ferrell had a nice play early in the game, but other than that, nah. This is a team that's built around its defensive line. They are built front to back. They are meant to be a very good pass rush, and they're not. And this is 2 weeks in a row. And if they're not getting home with their defensive line, they're not going to win very many games, or they're not going to get many stops. And I don't know what the fix is.
Yeah, I think they just got to play better. I mean, I don't have a fix. I don't think blitzing more is the answer. I think they get burned on a lot of blitzes. I don't think Steve Wilkes has been great at dialing them up. And these are things that I think it's fair to say when you have a new defensive coordinator that you can look at under the microscope. The zero blitz with 16 seconds left is just flat out inexcusable. Because you basically took a safety that would have been right there in that seam, who would have added an element of inside leverage to that play, and unless two guys screw up, him, whether it was Hufanga or Gibson, like that's not a touchdown, and you lose that game by 5. Right? You give up a touchdown, a 60-yard touchdown with 16 seconds left in a game that you lose by 5. And so much of what happens, I was thinking about it like, there's always moments where you can just point to like, oh, if they don't screw that up, but there are just so many of those, and you lose by 5 that you can't afford to stack as many mistakes as the 49ers did tonight.
Yep.
And it was, again, like, I thought defensively, to me, like Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, and it was really surprising how well or how open the receivers were getting. But you're able generally to negate a lot of that with a pass rush. That's like what the 49ers defense is designed to be. It's designed to be a zone defense that allows short passes in front of them. If you do drive the field, you have to go 15 plays, right? And they're just going to take their chances and say, you're not going to be able to do it over that many plays against us consistently enough to beat us. But the Vikings were, and in large part because Kirk Cousins never had any heat on him. It never felt like he was uncomfortable in the game, and he was just sitting back there. He could make his reads, he could get to his spot, and he was never pushed off his spot. And every throw was on time and in rhythm, and that's all in the pass rush to me. And yeah, like, I don't think there's a coverage unit in the NFL, like a group of defensive backs that can operate with a quarterback who is just completely unbothered in the pocket tonight. And that's not to say that the Niners cornerbacks or safeties played well tonight, but it's to say that, like, the Niners defense, to your point earlier, is built front to back, is designed to bother the quarterback with just rushing 4. That's ultimately the biggest advantage they've had when they've played well, is that they can just rush 4, drop 7 into coverage, and then be super effective. And they didn't have any of that tonight.
Listen to this is the Vikings drive chart. 3 plays and an interception. Then this is just going to be plays and result of the drive. 10 touchdown, 13 field goal, 5 touchdown, 11 field goal, 10 field goal, 7 punt, 10 missed field goal. Like, they were stringing together so many long drives.
Which is why I thought it was crazy that Kyle Shanahan I know it was 4th and 6, and maybe if it's 4th and 3, it changes his decision. But settling for that 55-yard field goal there, I thought was crazy, because it was 5 or 6 straight scoring drives for the Vikings. Like 5 or 6 drives where they put up points at the end of their possession. They only punted once tonight.
Jesus.
And it was in the 4th quarter. So, like, they're just I don't know. I think, like, the coaching, obviously we talked about Wilkes and the zero blitz call. Shanahan, I thought, should have went for it on 4th and 6. You got to go score a touchdown there because your defense isn't stopping them. I thought he actually got he was fortunate in that the defense did get 2 stops, although one of them was a missed field goal after that. But I mean, coaching was bad. Special teams was bad. You miss a kick, obviously. and the defense just being completely unable to get a stop when they needed to at any point in a game that you lose by 5. You have all these mistakes and you still lose by less than a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's what's the most frustrating thing about losing games in the NFL is like they're always so close. And just like it's generally a collection. Like I'm a firm believer, and it's a cliche at this point, but I am a firm believer in more games are lost than won. Like that line of thinking that like generally if you're if you're an NFL team, the talent's not that much different throughout the league. The fewer mistakes you make, the more games you're going to win. And that's been one of the things with Brock Purdy. One of the most underrated things about Brock Purdy is he hasn't turned the ball over. Right? Yeah. He's played clean football. He didn't have a pick until he didn't have his first interception until last week. And then he threw 2 tonight.
There were 3. So the first interception you talked about is poor timing on a throw to Jennings. The second one was just not understanding your capabilities as a quarterback. He tried to like layer in a throw on the run into a tight window to Ray McLeod. That's our favorite word, inexcusable. And then there was the play that led to the field goal, the skipped pass to Brandon Ayuk, where he's running left and then Purdy tries to throw back to the middle on the run across his butt. You don't have that arm. You're not Patrick Mahomes, man. You can't do that.
I didn't hate that one so much because he was trying to make a play. And
I totally understand that. But he can't make that play.
Sure.
I don't know. Brandon Ayuk, by the way, 1 target, no catches in the second half.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Our favorite cast member, Nick Wagner, texted us at that point. He was like, man, they're rolling coverage to Ayuk, but Kyle Shanahan's got to do something to get him involved. It seemed like a lot was just like, you know, it was Jennings and Kittle at that point. Once Minnesota started focusing their coverage on Ayuk.
That has been one of, I think, has been and is one of Kyle Shanahan's shortcomings, or one of the shortcomings of his offense, is like sometimes you just have to throw it to your dudes and let them make plays. And how many times did we see Kittle in 2018? He'd have a monster first half, and then the defense would adjust, and then he'd get no catches in the second half because they were busy throwing it to fucking Marquise Goodwin or whoever. You know, it just because Shanahan goes, oh, they're taking this away. This is going to be open. So obviously throw it to Ray or McLeod. It's like, that's what the defense wants you to do. That's the plan. You're doing their plan for them. Let Brandon Ayuk go be good. And that's been, again, that's not an isolated problem to tonight. That has been a Kyle Shanahan problem for years.
They also couldn't run the ball, really. Yeah, it never felt like they got in any sort of rhythm offensively, and so much of their rhythm is based on running the ball. Yep. And a lot of that too is like it's a lot harder to run the ball when you're down by, you know, like the 49ers were down, I think it was 12 in the second at the end of the half, and it was the largest deficit they've had all season. Right? So yeah, I just like, you know, you have to be able to play from behind. And that's one thing too that we haven't really seen from Brock Purdy at all. Right? Like we haven't the last 2 weeks, and acknowledging that 2 weeks is a small sample size, but it seems pertinent now that they've lost 2 games in a row where they've fallen behind, and Purdy's been, you know, last week he put them in position to kick the game-winning field goal. This week he threw 2 picks on the 49ers' last 2 possessions when they were down by 5.
On 2 possessions where you needed your quarterback to make a play.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, you know, look, like we're going to get. Oh, we got Jared Brown in the chat. Hold on. From our guy Jared Brown. Every coach has a section of their playbook that is specifically designed to get the ball in the hands of your studs, even if they're not sexy plays. Get the ball to your guys. Shout out to Jared Brown, who is a coach,
high school football coach.
He knows ball.
A damn good one.
He knows ball. So yeah, man, like it's all good when you can like play from in front and, you know, have balance offensively and run the ball and mix in play action and get guys open with flow and all of those things when the game's close or when you're leading. But when you're down by 2 scores and you have to pass the ball, you know, we've seen it now. like 2 weeks in a row where it's like, all right, do we know that we can trust Brock Purdy to win a game if he's, you know, trailing from behind? And now trailing from behind is redundant. I understand that.
I don't know how you comfortably say yes.
Well, yeah, and if you're going to take, you know, the optimistic side of it, you say, well, let's see like what happens when he does have Deebo Samuel, and
Sure.
maybe to an extent Trent Williams, right? But like it's not always going to be perfect. There's a pretty reasonable chance that when you're in the playoffs, you're not going to have all of your guys, and you're going to have to win a game without one of your guys too.
Yeah.
So now they've lost 2 games in a row. Brock Purdy he's thrown picks in each of those losses, and now I think there are very fair questions of, you know, can Brock Purdy be a guy that you feel comfortable with being your quarterback if you're down by multiple scores in a game that you have to win?
47 carries for 173 yards the last 2 weeks. That's less than 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
That's not very good.
Yeah, I think teams know, like, if you're going to stop the 49ers, it starts with stopping the run and then, you know, building your defense off that, and it doesn't hurt to jump ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. Christian McCaffrey didn't miss a snap tonight, by the way. Just played them all. It's fine. Not like there was a lot of them. But they played 55 snaps.
Couple tutties for the fantasy squad.
Yeah, that's big time.
Yeah, we love that.
Extended that streak, which is really the most important thing. 2 losses in a row for the 49ers. Who cares? 16 games with a touchdown in a row for Christian McCaffrey. That's what we're here for.
We'll see what's up with Fred Warner. I thought he hurt his hand at one point in that game. And it looked scary when he left with what appeared to be a left leg injury. Could be wrong on that, but I thought it was a left leg.
Who are we talking about?
Fred Warner.
Yeah, he took that knee to the thigh.
I just wonder if there's going to be news about his hand coming out of this on Tuesday. And now they have a short week. They're traveling back tonight, obviously, and they have a short week before playing the Bengals on Sunday.
Okay.
We'll get to that game later on, but like this is just like what happens in the NFL. It's like it feels like it's just very hard to win.
They're definitely losing next week. Like, let's just record the show now. God, they couldn't stop Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase down the field.
Okay, I mean,
no, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, I don't even. They're just not, dude. It's 2 weeks in a row they've been not good. Like, I was ready to crown them. I was like, Brock Purdy's an MVP candidate, and the 49ers are the best team in the NFL. I don't even.
So the Browns. One of my takeaways in watching what happened with the Browns and Colts game, I was like, oh, maybe one thing we didn't really factor in enough was the Browns coming off their bye week before playing the Niners.
That didn't matter this week.
Didn't matter this week. But the point I'm making here is that the Bengals are coming off a bye week.
Yeah.
So the Bengals come off the bye, and this goes back to what we talked about in August, or maybe it was June. No, I think it was June when we were talking about the scheduled rest days. Prime off-season content, the scheduled rest days, and the rest disadvantage the 49ers have. Now, this is 2 out of 3 opponents are going to be coming off a bye. And then when the 49ers do have their bye, after the upcoming Bengals game, they play the Jaguars, who are also coming off their bye. So they don't get the advantage of playing a team that played the previous week when the Niners come off their bye.
The 49ers are not only playing a team coming off their bye, they're doing so on a short week where they travel.
It's going to be a tough game against Cincy. I do trust like the resolve. Like, I think, I don't think they're going to come out and like be bad.
That's okay. See, I thought that the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I got it in Cleveland. Like, okay, you know what? The Cleveland coming off the bye and they still could have won. But this is just, dude.
Yeah, this was bad. They were thoroughly outplayed.
They got smoked by a bad team.
Oh, they got smoked, but they
got their asses kicked.
They lost by 5.
They got their asses kicked. It was a long 5. It was a heavy 5.
Yeah, given how many things went wrong,
going on 6.
I don't hate the argument that it felt like more than 5, given how many things went wrong and how poorly they played.
Yeah,
but
they were two. What's his name? Their quarterback, Kirk Cousins, misfires away from having a couple more touchdowns instead of field goals.
Yeah.
Like he missed Alexander Madison wide open, and then I think it was Jordan Addison wide open on those two goal line stands.
Yeah.
Man,
Kirk Cousins was, I mean, that's the
Good.
best game I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, same.
I haven't watched every Kirk
And
Cousins game, but that's the best I've ever seen him play.
wow, shows your dedication.
Shows that, especially since he was going to be the 49ers quarterback at one point.
Yeah, dude,
No, but like,
hey, at the rate Brock's going right now, the Cousins thing back on the table. All
yeah,
due respect to Nick Wagner and Kevin Seifert for their awesome piece in ESPN about the fracturing of the Kyle Shanahan Kirk Cousins pipeline, I guess.
I didn't understand how TJ Hawkinson was so open all the time. I just sort of been under the assumption that the Niners cover tight ends really well, and it's very hard for tight ends to get numbers against that defense with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. I don't know that Greenlaw is like amazing in coverage. I think he's generally a better like downhill play in front of you type linebacker, while Warner is pretty unquestionably the best coverage linebacker in the league. But it felt even early that like Warner had one play where he's like looking over his shoulder in coverage. Hawkinson's in front of him. I think Warner's looking over his left shoulder, and Hawkinson's coming down and breaks to his right. And it was very clear that Warner, like Hawkinson, was in Warner's zone. And Warner was just overplaying so much to his left. And then Hawkinson just breaks open to the right and is wide open. And I don't know, like I thought Warner had some plays where he looked awesome and he was in the right spot. And then I felt like there were some plays. Even the first run, it was like a 19-yard run to open the game. Warner overran it. Yeah, he overran it. And it was like, all right, so
that first play was the exact thing Steve Wilkes talked about in his press conference this week about how when you string out a run like that, you eventually have to get vertical. And they didn't. It was just everybody getting horizontal, and then the running back is vertical, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
An exact same thing. And that's where, like I said, the coaching starts to come in, and like, man, that looked like they didn't make any kind of adjustment on the ground. And they couldn't figure it out with the pass rush.
Are we where are we at on the kicker?
Here's what I'm trying to do, because I'm a big believer that once a player is in the league, you have to strip their like draft position from their performance.
Right.
Brock Purdy is your starting quarterback. It doesn't matter that he was a 7th round pick. Once he's in, he's in. He has to play. So I'm trying not to evaluate Jake Moody on the fact that he was the 99th pick. But I also feel like if he was an undrafted rookie, I wouldn't feel the same way that I feel. Because I'm just kind of out. But at the same time, if he was undrafted, would I be like, I know, big pressure spot he missed and missed the next one, but he came back and he drilled a 54-yarder. That's good work by him. Or do I think I'm biased because I think picking a kicker 99th overall is abysmal. And the fact that he's not very good is a problem.
Yeah, I think no matter where he were drafted, I would be like very, very skeptical of the Niners kicking situation. Like, dude he missed 2 kicks, and I know the first one was a 57-yarder or whatever in Cleveland. He missed 2 kicks in a 2-point loss last week, and then this week he misses 1. Thankfully, like I said, they didn't lose by 3 or fewer. But I don't feel. I mean, did the leash get shorter after this one? I think that's probably the question that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are debating this week, right? Does the fact he missed a kick in the first quarter, does that shorten his leash at all, or did making the 55-yard kick give them any more confidence in him?
We got the answer. It's not shorter. They kicked the 55-yarder, 54-yarder, whatever it was.
It was a bad decision.
Like,
I thought it was a bad decision.
I thought for sure he misses that 40-yarder at the start of the game, or the first quarter, whenever it was. And it was like, he's done, dude. You can't go back to him. And then down 8, mid fourth quarter, 54-yarder, line him up. Like, what? Like, oh my God. He's just going to roll him out there. Cool. Like, I think Shanahan's just glad he has a kicker with that much leg and he can even try it.
Yeah.
And so he just doesn't really know what to do anymore. But, I mean, it's not like they're going to cut him this week. But
yeah, I mean, I just like
confident running him out there.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I think it's a complicated question, right? Because like it wasn't off memory. It didn't feel like it was a terrible kick, the first one, the 40-yarder that he missed tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seemed like it was struck well. Like, it doesn't seem like guy has a yips. It seemed like he just pushed it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the fact that he kicked the 55-yarder probably has to make you feel a little bit better, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see about Cincinnati. I don't think, and I'm sure Kyle Shanahan's answering questions about it from the media right now. I don't think kicking the field goal from 55 yards out to go down 5 in that situation was the right call. Particularly given how likely it was that he would have missed it. Obviously, he made it, so we can't talk about it in those terms in hindsight. But like being down 5 did nothing for them.
Yeah.
Right. And they did have two more drives to potentially go score touchdowns, which was probably Kyle Shanahan's thinking. Like, we're getting at least one more drive to go, take the lead here with a touchdown. But I don't know, just given the fact that the Niners defense allowed points on 5 straight possessions before that, made me think that, like, they couldn't get off the field the entire game. And I'll have to go back and look, but 8 of 13 on third down for Minnesota is just completely, to borrow your favorite phrase, inexcusable. There's no way a team that doesn't have Justin Jefferson can do that for you or do that against you.
Minnesota went 6.8 yards per play.
Yeah. That's
too many yards per play.
Yeah, I mean, Cousins completed 78% of his passes.
Never got sacked. Let's see, the Niners.
I do think
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 QB hits.
If we want to have the human nature part of this discussion, like sure. that game was more or less the season for the Vikings. They lose that game and drop to 2 and what are they? They would have been 2 and 5.
Yeah.
If they drop to 2 and 5, then their season's basically over. They're fielding trade calls for Cousins. Maybe they're trading Danielle Hunter, right? Like, that's sort of like the last stand game for them. Not that, I'm just like, when you're the point I guess I'm trying to make here is, like, remember when the Warriors, when the Warriors were in their dynastic run, it was basically the biggest game of the season for every team they played. Mm-hmm. And it just increased the level of difficulty it was, particularly on the road, to win those tough games on the road. And again, all I'm saying is that the 49ers, given like who they are and how they get talked about, like, it's going to be a big game for anybody that plays them.
They're on year 5 of this.
No, I know. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just saying, like,
Are you saying it's good that they lost this one?
Not at all. I'm just saying that, like, this game for the Vikings on their home field at this point in the season on Monday Night Football was probably a hell of a lot bigger for them. And the intensity that they played with was probably more than, like, the Chargers game in September 24th.
The Niners aren't going to get the 1 seed now. And so when they lose in the NFC title game, which, boy,
right,
that seems like a stretch right now, because they had to go on the road. I don't want to hear. All we heard about was, they're so locked in, and they know the importance of the number 1 seed, and they know they have to be at home in the NFC. It's like, then I don't give a shit what the Vikings record is, dude. Like, you saw the Eagles go dominate a good Miami team last night. and they came up with that, whatever that was. Why was Christian McCaffrey not wearing fucking gloves? That's another question I wrote down. After his fumble, they're like, "Oh, Christian McCaffrey's going to put gloves on now." Like, now? What happened before?
Was he not wearing? I thought he always wore gloves.
They said that he put gloves on after he fumbled.
I mean, he might have been. I don't know. I did you see him play without gloves?
I didn't pay attention.
Okay. Yeah, I did hear it. I heard it from Joe Buck, but
I'm gonna go look right now, and if he wasn't wearing gloves, I'm gonna blame it on the oblique. He's clearly too focused on the slight little tear in his oblique and forgot to put his Jordan gloves on.
It's 11 touchdowns in 7 games.
It's pretty good. The last game that he didn't score a touchdown in, it was Jimmy Garoppolo against Andy Dalton.
Do we underrate Deebo Samuel's value?
Who is we?
Just the general us.
Do
they win that game if they have Deebo?
Oh, maybe. I think it creates more easy throws. I think it just takes away a lot of the, like, when Ray McLeod goes in motion, it doesn't affect your defense the way it does when Deebo Samuel goes in motion.
Yeah.
And there's probably an edge and a physicality he plays with. I'm watching the first carry right now. Let me mute this. If he's not wearing gloves, I'm going to go ballistic. He's got gloves on.
Yeah, I feel like he had gloves on.
No, he definitely did. That's such a bad fumble. Oh my God. Second red zone fumble this year by CMC. Is this a problem? Should we see more Jordan Mason? Your thoughts?
That was his third fumble of the year, and his career high was 2017, I think, with 4.
Okay, I want to address
excuse me. He was 2018. He had 4 fumbles. So yeah, ball security's gotta be tightened up.
Boy, does it. So I said on the internet that the 49ers paid Nick Bosa to take over games like this. He's been a virtual no-show. And somebody responded, who did show up on the line in all fairness? Like, no, not in all fairness. Not in all fairness. Nick Bosa is the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. I don't care that Randy Gregory didn't have a great game. I don't care that Drake Jackson didn't show up. Like, they paid number 97 to be that dude, and he wasn't. So, no, in all fairness.
I would say the lack of pass rush was the thing that hurt the 49ers the most in this game.
I agree with you. Because if they get off the field on 2 of those third downs, like you said, the Vikings punted once, and it was late in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I would rank it. I mean, the third down feels
8 of
like
13 on third downs is insane.
And that's a direct correlation to the pass rush, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. Held him 0 for 2 in the red zone.
Yeah, but I think if the pass rush is better, to your point, there's probably 1 or 2 possessions where they don't score, and we're talking about a 5-point game. I would put. I mean, you can't turn the ball over 3 times.
Yeah, right? That's a problem.
So I would put.
You know what? This goes back to your keys that you were talking about before the game. I think you nailed it.
Win the turnover battle. Yeah.
Got to hit the opposing quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I highlighted and circled and underlined limit mistakes.
That's a big one. No, you note that a lot.
So, they should have listened.
Ian Cordero in our YouTube chat asks, who was the bigger loss, Trent Williams? I'm assuming TW is Trent Williams.
Tiger Woods didn't play either.
Not Trendon Watford. Shout out to the Blazers. I think Deebo. Honestly, Jalen Moore was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't notice anything egregious from Jalen Moore tonight.
That play where Brock Purdy scrambled for 18 yards or whatever it was, that was more impressive than any run Trey Lance had as a member of the 49ers.
It's not even close.
Regular season or preseason.
It's not even close.
Which is
Didn't
notable.
Nick tweet out the stat that Brock Purdy has like the second highest rush EPA in the league?
Yeah, because like I mean, he has a few. How many sneak touchdowns does he have? 2, 3?
Yeah, a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably why.
Do you think that the league will ban the quarterback sneak after Brock Purdy got a first down with it? I'm kind of wondering.
Do you enjoy watching the tush push /
Dude,
brotherly shove?
I don't give a damn about the play. I enjoy watching the collective meltdown on the internet when it happens.
I'm out on it, but I'm not gonna like. I'm out on it, but I'm not gonna spend time like tweeting about it. And to everyone's point, which I think is correct, like there's only one team that's really good at it. If the entire league was doing it and every team was good at it, then I would be like, okay, this is really problematic and the league should look at it. But if only one team can do it,
Vikings failed at it tonight.
Yeah. Well, was it really a tush push on that Purdy sneak? The first one before?
No, the Purdy one probably wasn't.
Yeah.
They tried to get in there after the fact, but it wasn't carrying him across the line.
Tried to get in there. Yeah, I don't know, man. 5-2. If you would have told me, I mean, that's the NFL is great because conventional wisdom always just gets slapped around. If you had told me the Niners would have lost to the Browns and Vikings consecutively, I would have been stunned.
So I said before the year when we were doing I said they were going to lose one of those, and they lost them both. But I also thought they were going to lose in Pittsburgh. So
yeah, maybe Ian Cordero in the chat also says Fred Warner over the top might be the answer to the tush push. Maybe, but you got to time up the snap.
Yeah, and not that many linebackers are capable of making that play.
Yeah.
But I don't, man.
So we will have tough game. And maybe it was a smack in the mouth the 49ers needed, Kyle.
You'd rather have this loss in week 7 than in the divisional playoffs.
No doubt.
That's what I always say.
Like now that it's 2 in a row and we've seen Brock Purdy throw a couple interceptions, like I generally don't change my opinion of a team after like a loss, but I'm sort of like I'm a little leery now. I'm a little like
I am too.
All right, I don't know that they're like as indestructible as they seemed a few weeks ago.
Yep. Yeah, if they don't figure out that pass rush, I just don't know how they're going to get any stops. That's
I think they will. They still have a ton of talent there. But it was pretty alarming that given the talent there, it was completely null and void tonight.
Yeah, so. Really bad. Really tough. All right. I'm done.
I think that's all we got.
I have nothing else to say.
Shout out to everybody on the YouTube chat.
Yeah, it was dope. Thanks, guys.
Man, it was crowded tonight.
Yeah.
People love.
Shout out to the homies from the Chatty House that pulled up. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll preview Niners Bengals later in the week. Like our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We stream video there if you're not here. Subscribe. Did I say like our YouTube channel? Subscribe to it.
Like the video.
Like the video.
Subscribe to the channel.
Bell notifications, all of those things. 5-star reviews wherever you listen to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk to you guys later in the week.
All right. Yep. Bye.